Hey, I'm Stephanie, and today we're talking about sales, specifically how to avoid the temptation to overpurchase or overspend. This video applies all year round, but it is inspired by Black Friday season, which is fast approaching. My thinking is if you can learn how to navigate Black Friday sales, then you will be more than prepared to handle the rest of the year's temptations too. Black Friday used to be one day, then it stretched into a week, and then somehow it expanded into the entire month of November, and then last year, the very first Black Friday sale that I saw was on October 14th. So now that we're in October, I think it's time to gird our loins and get ready for the onslaught of new releases, holiday launches, limited editions, and every distraction that the shopping world can throw at us. If you like to shop wisely, but you find this season especially challenging, then this video is for you. And honestly, for me too, because I love shopping. I just already own most of what I need, so I have the luxury of being selective. And to be honest, I'm usually happiest when I save my yeses for the things that felt like they were really just made for me. So today I'll share some of the ways that I think about sales in general and Black Friday sales specifically that help me to keep things under control. Here's what I want to focus on today. What type of sale shopper are you? In general, I feel like there are three overarching groups of shoppers in this world when it comes to sales. All of them have their merits and their reasons, so none of the groups is better than any of the other ones. But I do think that it's useful to become aware of which group we tend to fall into, especially in our kryptonite categories if we happen to have an area where we tend to overspend. In the first group, we have people who buy whatever they want or need whenever they want or need it. So I guess we'll call them the convenience crew. If it's not on sale, they still buy. If it is, great, but they want to spend their time and their energy in different ways, not hunting for the best price. So they don't actively search for coupons or sales, and they don't wait for sales to buy things. Basically, they view paying full price as a convenience fee. They let the store hold that item for them until the exact moment that they're ready for it. Their priority tends to be time and efficiency, not price. The next group is made up of people who try to only ever shop on sale because they always want the best price. This might mean things like clipping coupons or waiting for discounts or waiting for a particularly good sale. Their priority is saving money on the things that they want and need, even if that means waiting longer or sacrificing some convenience. So I guess we'll call this group the Deal Divas. This is the group I belong to, and I think it comes from my early days as a musician. If you saw my video on minimalism, you know the first several years of my career were a little bit rough. I was the dictionary definition of a starving artist, buying only the bare minimum and always chasing the best price out of necessity. And that habit stuck with me even though I'm no longer in that financial situation. And to be honest, I think it's become a bit of an advantage. If you've been following me for a while, then you know I try to live by what I call the Adagio mindset. In music, Adagio means slow and with feeling. And I want to slow down the pace of my life so that I can truly enjoy more aspects of it. And this includes my relationship with shopping. Because once I escaped my starving artist phase, I overcorrected and became a chronic overpurchaser. And I was just getting overwhelmed by the amount of stuff that I had. So now I'm working on finding balance. Slowing the pace of my purchasing helps me to savor what I already own and also to treasure anything I do choose to bring in. And I have found that waiting for sales naturally builds a pause into my purchasing process. So if I see something that I want and it isn't on sale, that automatic waiting period gives me some time. And in that space between wanting and buying, I often realize that I don't actually need or sometimes even want that thing right now. So I have both feet planted firmly in the Deal Diva group because it keeps me aligned with my values and my shopping goals. And since Black Friday season can feel a little like running an obstacle course, I've been sharing my own shopping temptations and how I talk myself out of them over on Patreon. It's kind of like a running diary of the things that I almost bought, but I didn't, and it's just very informal. So if you enjoy these Adagio videos, you might find that kind of fun too. It's like a behind-the-scenes anti-haul in real time. So I'll link that here and in the show notes. The third group of people tends to avoid sales in general to improve their self-control. So we'll call them the Promo Pacifists. These people often have a history of overpurchasing or overspending overspending, and they're trying to adjust their behavior. Because sales trigger their shopping brain and bring out their makeup monster or their book banshee or any of the other shopping creatures that tend to take over. So in general, these people actively ignore sales. Now, if they need something and a store happens to be running a sale, they don't run out of the store screaming and then wait for the sale to stop. They'll still buy that thing, but they don't allow themselves to browse for other items because that would just awaken old habits that they're trying to change. For example, I've heard creators like Hannah Louise Poston mention that she often ignores sales and just buys things when she needs them because she noticed that sales shopping was contributing to her overpurchasing behaviors. But I think it's important to note here that all three of these mindsets are perfectly valid because every single one of us is coming from a different context. We all have different histories, we have different needs and budgets and goals and shopping triggers, and we're all on different points on that minimalism, maximalism spectrum of how much we want to own. So my goal with these Adagio videos is not to prescribe what I think is best. I call myself the style stumbler for a reason because I'm just trying to figure these things out just like everybody else. So my goal is just to show my thought process in the hopes that it inspires all of us to think more deeply about these things so that we can each figure out what works best for us. So my question for you is, when it comes to your kryptonite category, the sort of thing that often tempts you to overspend, which shopping group are you a part of? Or do you feel like you're straddling a couple of them? I would love to hear about it in the comments, because once you know which group you belong to or want to belong to if you're trying to change things, then you can begin to craft your very own sale avoidance or sale use strategy. We're going to talk about the avoidance one today, but we'll talk about the sale shopping strategy next week, because we're not here necessarily to quit shopping, just the regret that sometimes tags along with it. So if you are in group 3, the Promo Pacifists, you generally avoid sales. And if you want to act in line with that choice during these next few months, then the best thing to do is to completely ignore sales emails and Black Friday marketing completely. That could just mean not browsing the sales, but some people find it easier when they take a social media break, or they temporarily unfollow certain accounts, or they unsubscribe from email lists. I realize that is easier said than done, but even though I am not myself a promo pacifist, I have been in your shoes. I did a year-long no-buy back in 2022, I think, and all of the sales were hard for me to ignore, but especially the ones during Black Friday season. Because there's so many new launches and limited edition releases, I understand the appeal. Saying no can feel borderline painful in the moment, but we often just focus on that moment we're living in, the moment where everyone's talking about the newest product, the moment where everybody's raving about the limited edition releases. But my experience has been that once the holidays are over, people stop talking about like 99.9% of that stuff, and it is never talked about again. It seems so big and so important in the moment, like we'll truly miss out on something if we don't get it. But how many people are talking about, I don't know, that one specific Hourglass palette from their holiday 2022 release? No one. Because Hourglass comes out with beautiful palettes every holiday season, and if I'm being honest, the packaging might look different every year, but the dirt inside usually looks pretty much the same. But take something like the Makeup by Mario Ethereal Eyes palette. People do still talk about that one once in a while because they really do like it. If you didn't manage to get your hands on that, Natasha Denona created essentially the very same palette with her I Need a Nude. So even if you can't get the Ethereal Eyes palette anymore because it was limited edition, you still can get a palette that will give you pretty much an identical look on the eyes with a permanent palette that you can get whenever it happens to fit into your budget and your life. And pretty much every limited edition product has a permanent equivalent. I realize it feels so much more desperate than that in the moment, but come January, when the Northern Hemisphere is freezing and cold and sober, the draw of those holiday items fades. People stop talking about them, they stop using them on camera, and suddenly they're history, and so many of them are simply forgotten entirely. The glittery fantasy crumbles into what it always was: dirt pressed into a pan. So if I were a promo pacifist, I would just avoid all Black Friday purchasing, or at most, I would pick one item that I feel would be a great souvenir to remember the year with, and then simply purchase that. But I am not a promo pacifist. I'm in group 2. I'm a deal diva. So how do I handle the onslaught of sales and tempting new releases since I actively use sales? Well, I have a couple of tools that help me. I mentioned this first one in my recent New Makeup Madness video, so I'll link that for you here and in the show notes if you want more detail. But I generally have a rule against buying limited edition releases. I know it sounds extreme, but I've just come to realize that they stress me out. And I rarely make my best decisions when I'm that stressed out. Due to my life story, scarcity freaks me out, and limited editions are contrived scarcity. So they're just an automatic no for me. I've been using this rule since last year's Black Friday season, and it has noticeably reduced that frenzied feeling that I would often get this time of year. And considering that Black Friday season essentially lasts from October through December nowadays, which is 3 months, that's a quarter of the year where I just feel more at peace. Because although there are a lot of limited edition holiday products, a whole lot of permanent products also launch during the holidays. And I don't need to buy any of those during Black Friday. Which brings me to my second little helper, remembering that there will always be another sale. If you've been around the block several times like I have at this point, then you know that Black Friday is not the be-all, end-all opportunity of opportunities. There will always be another sale, and there are some pretty good ones out there. I mean, even in January, but then there's March Madness, there's Christmas in July, there's Memorial Day and Labor Day, and I feel like, I don't know, say hi to your dentist day is even an excuse for sales nowadays. So there will definitely be a sale that makes it worth your while to wait. And of course, I understand that it's so much fun to buy something while everyone's talking about it so that we can feel like we're part of the conversation. But for me, I've just found it to be so much more satisfying to lay back and see the few products that end up being talked about in the long term. It is so easy for even a mediocre product to get hyped up in the short term. But if you hear people raving about something a year or 2 or 3 later, then you know there's probably something to it. And I would just rather wait for the best of the best. Most of the time, that requires waiting to see what ultimately rises to the top. But of course, if I always wait for sales to buy things, then we need to talk about how I use sales to my advantage without being taken advantage of. And that is exactly what we will be doing next week. So if you want to see that, make sure that you like this video and subscribe to my channel, especially since we'll be talking about this kind of stuff all month. But what about the group 1 people? The convenience crew of people who just buy things when it's relevant for them. How should they handle Black Friday season? Well, technically nothing really has to change for them. If they see something that's relevant for them, then they can buy it when it's most convenient, whether it's on sale or not. But the thing that they might want to watch out for is the amount of stuff that they're bringing into their life all at once. Because even if you can afford everything, it is worth thinking about whether you'll actually have the space and the time to enjoy it all at once. If I were part of this group, I would limit myself to the things that I can only get during the holidays, because I can get items from permanent releases any old time, especially if I'm not concerned with getting things on sale. Because here's the thing, if you purchase when it's convenient for you, the purchase timing needs to be convenient, but so does the usage timing. So if you buy something because it releases during the Black Friday season, but then you don't get around to really using it for months or even years, is it truly a convenient purchase? Because you're going to have to store it and maintain it in the meantime. So whether you're part of the convenience crew or the Deal Divas or the Promo Pacifists, the point isn't to change who you are. It's to know yourself and your habits well enough that the sales don't end up running the show. And if you need help figuring out which group you're in or want to join, we can talk about it in the comments, but I've also created a sale persona cheat sheet over on Patreon, so I'll link that here and below. Because shopping can be a lot of fun, and it's even better without a side of regret. Next week, I'll share how to actually use sales to your advantage without getting taken advantage of. So make sure you're subscribed if you don't want to miss that. In the meantime, you might like this video here. Thanks for hanging out, and to all of my patrons and channel members, including my Adagio angels, for making this content possible. I hope we can all remember that even stumbling can be a form of moving forward. So let's stumble in style.